An E-Class weak adventurer named Rude was betrayed by his party. A slash from behind almost ended everything. In front of him, a giant minotaur raised a huge axe, ready to crush his body. But fate had other plans. The dungeon floor collapsed. They both fell into the darkness, to the deepest floor. Rude wake up? He questioned if he was still alive. Luckily, the minotaur's body cushioned his fall, sparing him from fatal injuries. That's where his survival instincts kicked in. Rude eat the minotaur. And with that, he gained the monster's skill that changed everything. Now, with his newfound power, Rude met a beautiful elf named Elicia. Together, they formed a party and embarked on a new journey to become stronger. And this is the recap of the manhwa. Monster Eater, Part 3. The next day, at the Bologna City Guild, Rude and Elicia had officially formed their party. Today, they came to the guild to complete their registration. While the receptionist processed it, Elicia also requested to raise Rude's rank. As a first step, they were given a mission to exterminate a pack of gray wolves, level 11 monsters with the skill scent detection. Rude immediately used stealth, a skill he acquired from a spider monster. Silently, he approached the target and with one quick slash, took down one of the wolves. However, the slain wolf managed to let out a howl, summoning its pack. Seeing this, Rude turned to Elicia. "I'll leave the rest to you," he said shortly. Elicia nodded, then began preparing her wind magic, Sylphide. In a quiet forest, a small creature suddenly appeared in front of Elicia. Calmly, she asked the creature to lend her its power. Rude, seeing such magic for the first time, was shocked and amazed. Moments later, a pack of gray wolves charged towards Elicia. Without hesitation, she chanted a spell, Greta Wind, slash these creatures. The wind blew fiercely, creating invisible sharp blades that quickly sliced the wolves into pieces of fresh meat. Rude could only stare in awe at Elicia's magic power. Even the ground in front of her was gouged, leaving a long scar on the earth. While Rude was still processing the scene, he suddenly heard a sound behind him. Red eyes glowed from the bushes, another wolf ready to pounce on him. Without time to react, Rude could only brace himself. But just before the wolf's fangs touched him, Elicia shouted, "Sylphide!" In an instant, Rude's body was lifted into the air. The wolves below were confused, searching for where their prey had disappeared. From above, he looked down. Many wolves were still left. Elicia also suspected there were more hiding in the forest darkness. "Alright, now it's my turn," said Rude. He activated echolocation, a skill he acquired from a bat monster. Red flashes appeared in the darkness, wolves hidden among the trees and bushes. There were a total of 30. Rude smiled in satisfaction. "Attack the spot I point to," he commanded Elicia. Elicia immediately launched her wind attack. Two wolves preparing to attack from below panicked and fled. But Elicia didn't stop. Her wind spell continued to rain down on the pack of wolves, cutting them one by one. However, Rude realized a weakness. Echolocation was less effective in open spaces, and Elicia's attack couldn't cover a wide area at once. So, he devised a strategy. Quickly, he moved to the side, herding the wolves into one place. Now it was Rude's turn. From the forest darkness, his eyes glowed bright red. Calmly, he observed the wolves from their blind spots. Then he activated Paralyzing Breath, a skill he acquired from the Mosfo's great monster. A toxic mist spread. In an instant, all the remaining wolves fell, their bodies weakened and finally motionless. Rude smiled in satisfaction. This battle was his. That day, Rude and Elicia managed to kill 52 gray wolves. After the battle ended, Rude became curious about spirit magic. He asked Elicia, who then explained that spirit magic allowed someone to borrow power from the spirits around. However, there was a condition. One must offer their magic as compensation. So even though the magic is strong, I only use a little energy? But there's one more thing. Not all spirits are compatible with every user. If someone tries to use a spirit that's not compatible with them, the magic required will be much greater, or the spirit might not lend its power at all. Suddenly, Sylphide pulled Rude's hair. He screamed in pain. Elicia laughed. Yes, he's a bit mischievous. The day was getting dark. Elicia decided to use Sylphide to get them home faster. They flew, accompanied by the fiery orange hues of the evening sky. As they floated in the air, Rude asked, "So, besides wind, do you also have other spirit magic?" Elicia smiled. "Of course. I master spirit magic of water, ice, and earth elements. What about fire or darkness? Not suitable for me. If I forcefully use them, the magic energy required is too much. The spirit might also refuse to lend its power if it's not compatible with the user." Fortunately, Sylphide likes me, even though he's a bit mischievous," Rude said. However, in the distance, Rude saw something strange. Black smoke rose high from the direction of a village. He squinted. Elicia, look at that. From the air, they could see clearly, the village was on fire. In the midst of the flames, stood a giant monster with a sheep's head and black bat wings. It easily destroyed the unfortunate village. Flames blazed high, lighting up the night sky with a bright red glow. People ran in panic, trying to save themselves from the destruction happening in their village. Amidst the chaos, a soldier stood tall, facing the raging monster before him. Armed only with an old sword and shield, the soldier tried to protect a bald man trembling behind him. His eyes widened, confused by the presence of this terrifying creature, Baphomet, the horned devil that existed only in legends. Suddenly, Baphomet chanted a magic circle, and from it emerged a large spear engulfed in hellfire. With incredible speed, he hurled the spear directly at the soldier. But before the spear could hit its target, a bright blue light flashed and deflected it. The soldier gasped, not understanding what had just happened. From behind the flames, a shadow emerged, approaching with steady steps. It was Rude, accompanied by the spirit water beside him. With a cold expression, he raised his hand, showing the new power he had just acquired, Water Bullet. Baphomet growled in anger at having his fight interrupted. From the other side, Elicia appeared and quickly gave instructions to the soldier and the bald man, explaining the situation. We'll handle Baphomet, Elicia said firmly. Without much talk, Rude charged forward. He used the appraisal skill to analyze Baphomet's strength and status. Name, Baphomet, level, 27. Skills, Principles of Fire Magic, Echolocation, Increased Mana Recovery Speed, Principles of Earth Magic, Mental Strengthening. Rude squinted. Although his level wasn't too high, the combination of skills Baphomet possessed made him a significant threat. He had to stay vigilant. Suddenly, Baphomet chanted multiple magic circles. In an instant, a barrage of fire spears shot towards Rude with terrifying speed. Undeterred, Rude charged forward. Baphomet was shocked, not expecting his enemy to face his attack head-on. With a swift leap, Rude soared through the air, his sword ready to strike Baphomet's head. A psychotic smile spread across his face. He couldn't wait to seize Baphomet's firepower. However, before his sword could hit the target, Baphomet blocked the attack with his sharp claws. Rude quickly realized that the monster was using the Steel Claws skill to defend itself. As Rude prepared to launch a counterattack, the fire spears from Baphomet's magic circles reappeared. With incredible speed, they flew and struck Rude's body before he could react. A massive explosion shook the entire village. Seeing this, Elicia immediately ran closer. Rude, are you alright? With a cold expression, Rude replied, I'm fine. He analyzed Baphomet once more. From his observation, the monster had used up almost all of its fire spears to attack, except for 2 remaining as defense. This wasn't just a wild beast, Baphomet was a smart opponent. This monster is different, Rude muttered. He's tough. He and Elicia began to devise a strategy. But before their plan was complete, Rude suddenly charged forward with high speed. From behind, Elicia quickly used her water magic to deflect Baphomet's fire attacks. The clash of the 2 magical elements caused them to cancel each other out. Rude realized something. If opposing magical energies have equal strength, they will cancel each other out. At that moment, Baphomet raised both his hands. Magic circles and large clumps of earth appeared above him, then hurled towards Rude. Elicia didn't stand idle. She immediately cast earth magic with equal power, causing the 2 attacks to collide in the middle. Rude, who was in between the 2 giant attacks, continued to charge forward without hesitation. The giant clumps of earth collided around him, but he kept moving. Then, with one high leap, he swung his sword, which had been reinforced with physical boost. Baphomet's large fingers were severed by the slash. However, Baphomet quickly retaliated with a strike from his right hand. But this time, Rude stood firm. Suddenly, flames ignited from within Baphomet's body. The monster growled in pain. From a distance, Elicia raised her hand, controlling the fire now burning her enemy. With a cold voice, she said, How does it feel to swallow your own power? Baphomet roared loudly, his body engulfed in flames, and within seconds, the terrifying creature fell, dead on the spot. Victory was finally theirs. Meanwhile, on the other side, the villagers waited anxiously. Would they become Baphomet's next meal, or would Baphomet be defeated first? A male soldier felt worried about Rude and Elicia. Did they manage to defeat Baphomet? Suddenly, Elicia appeared and thanked the soldier for helping evacuate the villagers. The soldier looked very happy to see Elicia safe. Elicia then informed them that Baphomet had been defeated. However, Elicia added that even though Baphomet suffered fatal injuries, if he managed to survive, he might attack again. Therefore, Elicia and Rude planned to pursue him. Elicia also asked the villagers for a small favor. She requested food because she was feeling hungry. Meanwhile, on the outskirts of the village forest, Rude was seen cooking Baphomet meat. Before long, Elicia arrived and Rude greeted her with a smile. He asked, "How are the villagers?" Elicia replied, "Everyone is safe and sound." She added that they would pretend to chase the fleeing Baphomet and defeat him so that no one would suspect when Baphomet's corpse disappeared from the village. The awaited moment had arrived. Rude couldn't wait to see a pot full of Baphomet meat soup that looked very tender and delicious. Quickly, he added ginger and mugwort spices to enrich the flavor. He tasted it with one bite, and a happy expression immediately appeared on his face, a sign that the Baphomet meat was truly delicious. "It still has a bit of a goat smell," Rude said, "but it still tastes amazing." Suddenly, Rude gained several new skills: principles of fire magic, principles of earth magic, mental strengthening, steel claw, and mana recovery acceleration. Elicia looked at the soup with hesitation. "It does look delicious," she said, "but I still feel strange seeing someone eat a humanoid monster like this." Suddenly, a noise from the bushes caught their attention. A pig monster named Stampig appeared. This level 22 monster had the flash step skill. Elicia warned Rude, "Isn't that pig monster too much?" Rude immediately stood up and shouted enthusiastically, "It's time to improve my magic combat skills." However, suddenly the atmosphere became silent. Everyone was confused. Rude's magic didn't come out. Rude himself was baffled. "What's happening? Why isn't my magic working?" Without warning, Stampig dashed towards Rude using Flash Step, a skill that increases speed when moving straight for a certain period. Rude was shocked to see Stampig's speed, charging towards him like a rocket. Fortunately, Rude and Elicia managed to dodge. Unfortunately, the delicious Baphomet soup had to be the victim, spilled onto the ground. With an angry expression, Elicia said, "Useless Rude. I thought you could use magic now." Meanwhile, Rude muttered angrily, "I won't forgive that fat pig." He felt annoyed because he had worked hard to cook the delicious Baphomet soup, but it ended up wasted. With full emotion, Rude shouted, "You have to take responsibility, you damn pig. Replace that soup with your own meat." However, Elicia quickly grabbed Rude's jacket and told him to calm down. She explained, "The skill that pig used is Flash Stamp. Its attack is strong enough to crush our bones. We have to attack from a position that the skill can't reach." In other words, they had to retreat temporarily. The two ran as fast as possible, avoiding the chasing Stampig. On the cold night, Rude and Elicia hid in a tree. Below them, the Stampig herd seemed confused, looking for their prey. From atop the tree, Elicia asked, "Why couldn't you use your magic earlier?" Rude shook his head. "I don't know either. This is the first time it's happened." Elicia suggested, "Try checking with your appraisal skill." After checking, it turned out that both the principles of fire magic and principles of earth magic skills could only be used instinctively. Rude tried to understand what it meant, but he still couldn't find a clear clue. "If you can't understand it," Elicia said seriously, "then your brain is really unlucky." She then suggested, "Maybe you need to control your mana properly first, then the skill can be used." Rude decided to try the suggestion. He closed his eyes and remembered when he first ate the Minotaur. At that time, his slashed body and destroyed hand regenerated, and great power flowed into his body. With full focus, he tried to release that power. Suddenly, a red light glowed around him. Elicia watched him with a surprised and amazed expression. Slowly, Rude opened his eyes, and a magic circle appeared before him. He smiled in satisfaction. Finally, he had mastered the new skill. Now, as long as he could control the mana in his body, he could use this skill as if it were a part of his own body. With full confidence, he launched an attack towards the Stampig below them. In an instant, fire spears shot out and burned the Stampigs. A massive explosion echoed throughout the forest. That night, the moon shone brightly, illuminating the tempting dish, tender fried pork with a golden brown color. Rude stared at the dish with great enthusiasm. Tonight's dinner menu, tonkatsu made from Stampig meat. As he ate, Rude realized something. When he consumed monsters, the mana in his body surged, and suddenly he understood how to use the skills he had just acquired. He speculated that if mana could replace magical power, then he might also be able to enhance his body or weapons with mana. Typically, adventurers preferred to hone their magical power over mana because by increasing magic, they could also strengthen their physique and weapons. In fact, some adventurers could use magic to attack from a distance with mana-enhanced slashes. The food made from Stampig monster was finally ready to eat. From his observation, Rude realized that he might have more mana than magical power. However, the most interesting part was that he could replenish mana simply by consuming monsters. Elicia watched Rude warily. She murmured to herself, "Rude is very dangerous. He can gain mana from eating monsters and even absorb their skills." However, Elicia's focus was suddenly diverted by the enticing aroma of crispy, golden brown Stampig meat. Rude noticed Elicia's hesitant expression and offered, "Want to try?" Elicia looked unsure. She felt awkward and didn't know what to do. But before she could decide, a loud explosion suddenly erupted behind them. Rude, who was enjoying his meal, was startled. Quickly, he turned to see what had happened. From the darkness of the forest, a pair of large eyes glowed golden yellow. A giant pig monster emerged from the shadows. Elicia looked at it tensely. "Rude, that's most likely the boss of the Stampig." Before they could react, the pig charged with incredible speed, heading straight for Elicia. Elicia was shocked. She didn't have time to react. But in an instant, Rude activated his new skill, Flash Step. With lightning speed, he carried Elicia and avoided the brutal attack from the monster. Elicia immediately tried to analyze the monster. How could a pig have such speed? She was surprised to see that the monster had a back covered in hellfire. Meanwhile, Rude murmured angrily, "Again, my food is destroyed." With a determined tone, he said, "Damn pig, I will eat you." Elicia tried to calm Rude. "Don't get too mad. But if it's roasted, it'll definitely be delicious." Rude frowned. "Impossible. That monster has fire resistance. How are we going to roast it?" Quickly, Rude used his appraisal skill to check the monster's status. King Stampig, level 38, with skills Fire Resistance and Flash Step. He sighed. "This isn't good. This monster is much stronger than we thought." Even so, he had no intention of backing down. He began to form a magic circle. Principle of Earth Magic. From the ground, a giant fist was formed. With an angry expression, Rude charged towards King Stampig. "Die, you damn pig." However, with one slash, King Stampig easily destroyed Rude's earth magic. Rude was shocked. "Impossible. This monster is too strong." Before he could dodge, King Stampig's charge hit him. Rude was thrown, crashing into a tree, and immediately fell unconscious. The monster then turned its target to Elicia. Quickly, Elicia summoned Sylphide and launched a counterattack. Her attack hit King Stampig, but it only left a scratch on the monster's thick skin. King Stampig prepared to attack again. He scraped his feet on the ground, preparing for a maximum momentum charge. As the monster charged, suddenly a thunderous sound shook the entire forest. Rude stood up and activated the roar skill, letting out an intimidating roar that made King Stampig pause for a moment. With a sharp gaze, Rude said, "Hey, damn pig. Don't turn away from me. Our fight isn't over." He took a deep breath, thinking of a strategy. This monster was very strong, even relying only on its charge. Rude slowly raised his sword and closed his eyes, trying to control the mana within his body. King Stampig charged towards him. At the right moment, Rude opened his eyes and channeled mana into his sword. With one quick slash, King Stampig's body was split in two. Elicia was stunned, unable to say anything. She had just witnessed an incredible power. Behind him, King Stampig's body fell apart, while the ground in front of him cracked. With a trembling voice, Elicia asked, "Rude, did you just enhance your sword with mana? And it worked on the first try?" Rude smirked arrogantly. "My gut told me it would work, but my mana is completely drained." Suddenly, Rude's sword cracked and shattered into pieces. He and Elicia were shocked. Rude fell to the ground, feeling exhausted. "I think I overdid it." Elicia sighed. "You channeled too much mana into your sword. Your weapon couldn't handle it." After defeating King Stampig, Rude returned to Bologna City. Meanwhile, on the 7th floor of the Miasma Labyrinth, a group of adventurers who had bullied Rude in the first episode were fighting the Great Miasma Rat. They worked together and finally managed to defeat the giant rat. However, one of them heard a strange noise coming from behind. Curious, he checked the source of the sound and discovered a secret staircase leading underground. At the end of the corridor, they found a large purple treasure chest with gold linings. With great excitement, they immediately opened it and found a red sword that looked very powerful. Without suspicion, they took the sword home. However, one of them, the fat one, felt something strange about the sword. He had a bad feeling. The next day, Rude and Elicia went to the traditional market to visit a weapon shop. They arrived at the shop Miner's Hammer, owned by a dwarf named Doem. Doem was examining Rude's broken sword and asked how the weapon could be damaged. He revealed that the sword was forged by him personally and should not have broken with just a regular attack. Rude told Doem everything because he trusted Doem to keep his secret. He explained how he gained power by eating monsters and using mana to defeat King Stampig, which caused his sword to break due to the excessive mana energy. Rude asked Doem to make a new, stronger sword. He also inquired if there were any special materials needed to forge the sword. Doem mentioned that he needed high-quality magic stones. Hearing that, Rude took out 3 magic stones from his bag, green, red, and yellow. Doem was shocked to realize that the stones came from General Lizard, Baphomet, and even Minotaur. Calmly, Doem said that Rude's power seemed to have increased significantly. Rude only smiled shyly but happily at the compliment. Doem then immediately began the process of making a new sword for Rude. Meanwhile, he lent a replacement sword to Rude with one serious warning. Under no circumstances, never channel magic into this sword. Understand, Rude? If the sword was to break, Rude would have to pay 10 times the compensation. Rude could only accept it reluctantly. After that, Rude and Elicia went to the full-bellied restaurant to eat together. Suddenly, from behind them, the leader of the group who had bullied Rude appeared. With a pressing attitude, he asked Rude for permission to join him. However, before he could finish his sentence, a man named Rondo standing behind him suddenly fell onto the table. Seeing the incident, the leader of the group, Magnus, panicked and asked, "Hey Rondo, are you drunk or what?" However, something more surprising happened. The treasure sword that they should have sold was still in Rondo's hands. Suddenly, the sword began to speak, whispering to Rondo to kill someone. Rondo immediately woke up and screamed, "Shut up, damn sword." In an instant, he drew the sword and without warning, slashed Magnus, their group's leader. After that, Rondo's gaze turned to Elicia. With empty eyes, he prepared to slash her. However, before the sword could reach Elicia, Rude swiftly blocked the attack. With a calm voice, Rude said, "It seems this problem has gone too far. We need to resolve it right now." Seeing Rondo rampaging, the people around him tried to stop his actions. The sword's blade glowed red, and suddenly Rondo slashed toward the crowd, massacring the people around him. From a distance, Elicia shouted to the bar owner, "Sorry, uncle. I'm going to destroy your wall." Rude immediately chased after Rondo to stop him. While running, he told the others to try and heal the wounded. Rude fought against Rondo and used his appraisal skill to see Rondo's status and strength. It turned out that Rondo's status showed an enraged effect, making him lose control of himself. With increasing rage, Rondo attacked blindly, not recognizing friend or foe. From afar, Elicia warned Rude, "Be careful. That's a cursed sword." Suddenly, Rondo's body underwent an evolution. He absorbed the magic that Elicia had fired at him. With incredible speed, Rondo lunged at Rude, trying to slash him. Rude blocked the attack with all his strength. However, Rondo kept attacking relentlessly, and Rude began to struggle against his power. Rude managed to inflict a scratch on Rondo's leg, but he was shocked to see red tentacles from the sword closing and healing Rondo's wound instantly. Seeing this from afar, Elicia wanted to help, but she realized that if she fired magic, the cursed sword would absorb it and become even stronger. Suddenly, from a distance, the fat man who had often bullied Rude shouted, "Please, don't kill Rondo." With a tone full of regret, the fat man apologized to Rude for all the times he had hurt him. However, he also begged Rude not to kill his friend. Rude ran toward Rondo and said, "I'll try my best." This time, Rude decided to use his substitute skill and asked Elicia not to help him for now. While holding off Rondo's rampage, Rude began to devise a strategy. However, one hard punch from Rondo landed right on his waist. Rude tried to withstand it with all his might, even though the impact was tremendous. Taking advantage of the moment, Rude quickly jumped onto Rondo's arm and tried to grab hold of his cursed sword. He then used his principles of earth magic skill, making giant hands emerge from the ground to restrain Rondo from all sides. In his mind, Rude realized that if all this was caused by a curse, then maybe he could deal with it like he did when he cured Alicia's curse. With determination, Rude charged toward Rondo and activated his substitute skill. The tentacles suddenly turned into red smoke, and slowly Rondo began to regain his senses. With tears streaming down his face, Rondo cried and begged Rude for help. However, at the same time, Rude felt an immense pain. The curse had infiltrated his body, and shadows of demons began to fill his mind. Suddenly, Rude's body was violently thrown back. Elicia, seeing this, immediately tried to help him, but Rude weakly said, "I'm fine, but my substitute skill failed." In his mind, Rude realized that it wasn't Rondo who rejected his skill, but the cursed sword itself that did. He then decided to weaken the sword. With strong determination, he used the principles of fire magic skill. Instantly, fire spears shot towards Rondo. However, what happened was beyond his expectations. Rondo screamed loudly and managed to dodge the attack. His face was filled with terrifying anger. Rude prepared to attack him once again, but suddenly he noticed something strange in Rondo's movements. Before he could react, the cursed sword absorbed the fire magic he had released. Rondo's scream echoed throughout the battlefield. His body began to evolve into a more horrifying form. Rondo's hands grew larger with sharp claws sprouting from his fingers, and his legs transformed to resemble those of a monster. Rude was stunned by this change and immediately used appraisal to analyze Rondo's status and strength. What he found made him even more cautious. Rondo had transformed into a very dangerous cursed monster, a two-headed entity with red wings and a cursed sword in his right hand. Appraisal showed the name of this creature, Two-Headed Curse, Graham. Its level was unknown, with the race listed as Curse and the status as Embodiment. Suddenly, in an instant, a sharp sword shot towards him with incredible speed. Rude barely had time to dodge, but luck was still on his side. With quick reflexes, he avoided the deadly attack. A fierce battle ensued. Their swords clashed with tremendous force. Now, this fight was not just about technique, but about who was stronger. However, Rude began to feel overwhelmed. The monster Graham moved too quickly, and the way he wielded his sword displayed the skills of a highly skilled knight. Rude tried to hold on, but Graham's attacks became increasingly unpredictable. In the middle of the battle, suddenly from behind, Graham launched a lightning-fast slash towards Rude. He didn't have enough time to react. However, before the sword could hit him, Elicia appeared from behind and with full force struck Graham using her magic staff, which had been reinforced with immense magical energy. Elicia's staff hit Graham's heart, and instantly she fired her wind magic laser. Green light enveloped Graham's body, and the sound of a horrific scream echoed throughout the area. Magnus, the group leader, swung his sword and stabbed Rondo's heart. With closed eyes, he ended his friend's suffering. Slowly, Rondo's body turned into red smoke, fading from their sight. Rude bowed silently, while Magnus and the fat man from their group cried, seeing their friend die in such a gruesome manner. Rude stood in front of the cursed sword. He grabbed it and muttered, "Even if I hide this sword, it will surely claim more victims one day." Suddenly, the sword activated again, whispering urges to kill. Rude and the sword stared tensely at each other. However, Rude's unique skill, debuffing, suddenly activated, canceling the curse on the sword. In a firm tone, Rude commanded, "Be quiet and don't make any noise." The sword seemed annoyed, losing its intent to fight. Shortly after, the guild master arrived at the scene. "Are you all alright?" he asked. He invited them all back to the guild building to explain the situation that had just occurred. After hearing their explanation, the guild master stared sharply at Rude. "Did you feel anything strange, Rude?" Rude explained that he had the debuffing skill, which made him immune to the sword's curse. As long as the sword was in his possession, he ensured there would be no more victims. However, the guild master confirmed once again. "All right, Rude. But what if the sword takes control of you and you lose control?" Rude smiled casually. "Don't worry, master. If that happens, kill me." The guild master was silent for a moment, then praised Rude and Elicia for handling the situation. He also expressed condolences to Magnus for losing his friend. Elicia then asked, "Master, why is the guild so crowded today? What happened?" The guild master explained that recently, many monsters had been appearing outside the labyrinth, their numbers far exceeding normal limits. After further investigation, they discovered that the monsters were emerging from the newly discovered Evilio labyrinth. According to the survey team, there was a particular monster ruling the labyrinth, a miasma dragon named Basilista. "I've never seen it in person," continued the guild master, "but according to ancient records, Basilista is over level 70. Its combat abilities are very high, and the most dangerous aspect is its deadly miasma poison. Due to the miasma, other monsters fled from the labyrinth, causing significant disturbances outside. If this continues, the guild master said seriously, the miasma will escape from the labyrinth and spread to the city." Rude immediately offered his assistance and asked to meet the injured survey team. In the guild's infirmary, several people lay weak with concerning conditions. They shivered, their faces pale, and their breathing labored. Rude approached one of the patients and activated his substitute skill. In an instant, he absorbed the miasma poison from their bodies and nullified it with debuffing. The guild master was astonished by Rude's ability. "You can cancel other people's abnormal conditions too?" Rude nodded. "Yes, but only if that person doesn't reject me." After seeing the effectiveness of Rude's skill, a decision was made. For the mission to exterminate the miasma dragon Basilista, only Rude and Elicia would go. "What are your chances of success, Rude?" asked the guild master. Rude smiled confidently. "The fewer people involved, the fewer people I need to protect. That gives me more freedom to move." The guild master finally agreed to Rude's decision and granted permission. Night fell. Rude and Elicia returned to the inn to rest. As they sat together, Elicia asked, "Will this be all right? Just the two of you is going?" Rude smiled. "If there's no one else I can trust, then you're the only one." He then apologized to Elicia for dragging her into this mess. However, Elicia just smiled. "Don't worry, Rude. If you think of going without me, I'll punch you in the face." They both laughed. With full enthusiasm, they shouted, "We're a party. Through thick and thin, we must stick together." The video ended with a serene night scene under the bright moonlight. Alright, that's it for now. If you want more, just comment below. Don't forget to subscribe and watch the continuation in the following playlist.